Would you like to be somebody who understands why people tend to judge that which they know least and that which they understand least? Then listen to this entire video where I explain it in depth and also why people judge in general. Before we start this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, and how to reduce suffering in life. Let's get into it. So, I've noticed something in myself as well as in other people that I've formulated in the following argument. So people tend to judge things and other people more when they understand less about these things or people. And when I mean judge, I'm talking about sort of oversimplifying something or someone based on a small number of characteristics. When you judge someone, you form an opinion on them and like a closed conclusion. You conclude the person. You essentially stamp them off. That's what I mean when you judge. And people tend to judge those things which they really don't understand a lot about, or they tend to judge more when they understand less, let's say. And this is actually quite obvious. It makes sense because, I mean, it didn't really occur to me now. Maybe it hasn't occurred to you either, but when you judge, you draw an ended conclusion about something. You stamp something off. And life is really far too complex to stamp really anything off. At least you can't stamp something off quickly, let's say. Let's at least put it like that. And if you truly understand something, you know how complex it is and that you simply cannot stamp it off quickly. But you need to first grasp somebody or something to be able to conclude that at first. Like, you need to understand the topic that you're talking about and realize, like, wow, this is actually very, very dynamic and very complex and really can't be boxed in. But that first needs to happen before you can realize that. So let's take the example of a person who wants to quit her job, like a colleague of yours. She wants to quit her job and she talks about it, but she doesn't seem to ever take the step and actually quit her job. And you may judge her as somebody with a big mouth that doesn't really put her money where her mouth is. She seems like she doesn't have the guts to quit. However, if you comprehend a little bit more about human nature, you may know that the human mind can be very conflicted and be filled with cognitive dissonance, where you think something but you don't act in the same way. Or in this case, just because your colleague says she wants to quit definitely doesn't mean she's actually going to do it. And also, if you know your colleague personally better, you may know that she has 2 children and is a single mother, so the stakes are quite high for her if she quits her job. And maybe she also has anxiety problems that make her fearful. And if you didn't know her well enough, you wouldn't know all this information. And if you don't have all this information on the person, you really can't judge them sophisticatedly or properly. So the key here is that people tend to judge that most, which they understand less, because, well, the complexity of the situation is just too much to accept. It's difficult to accept that you don't really understand something because it really, I mean, it essentially hurts your ego, let's say. And people also are very judgy and opinionated, a lot more because they're actually quite insecure about themselves. Like when they judge, what they do is, and this is generally for judging, it's quite interesting, I think this is what happens. When you judge, you essentially benchmark them, other people, against you as an attempt to make yourself look better because you are afraid that you are not enough. Hence, you always compare yourselves, and that's really what judging is. It's a comparison because you're afraid of your value. So you see other people try and pick things that they are worse at than you, and then summarize that person based on this bad quality of them, and that makes them look worse than you because you're insecure. You want to make sure that you're of more value than them because you really question your own self-value and your own confidence. So you try to bump it up by putting others down, essentially, and that's sort of what judging is. And yes, and like generally, if people, what I've realized for myself is, the more and more I've thought and experienced in life, the more I've come into contact with different situations and different people, and the more I realize that you really can't judge these people based on what you knew or what you knew before, because there's so many variables at play that you can't box them in as lazy or undisciplined. There's so much around it that might be affecting it. So be aware of when you judge, and also really speaking for myself, I need to be a lot more aware of when I judge, because I have been an opinionated person in the past, certainly. I'd say in the last few months I've learned a lot during the Corona crisis and breaking up with my girlfriend and facing the new step in my life because I'm graduating. I literally have my master thesis defense in about 1 hour, and I'm here making this video. So it's a new step for me in life. I'm going to have to figure out what my next endeavor will be. And I used to think like, okay, well, getting a normal job will be really suboptimal, but I've had an internship, but I haven't really had a normal job, so I shouldn't really be able to judge it properly. And I shouldn't be able to judge people who have a normal job as sort of having lost like motivation in life or anything. It's far too complex to do that. So I've learned that, and I hope you can learn it for yourself. So in conclusion, people tend to judge those things which they understand less the most, because they don't realize how complex these things or these people are. And if you would know more, you would be able to observe all these variables and their complexity and their dynamics to know that you really can't judge, at least not quickly or in an unsophisticated manner, because it's just an incorrect estimation with a high estimation error. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, and how to reduce suffering in life. Thank you for listening.